Dear students, how do organisms reproduce? Class 10 Science Biology chapter. So as you have to get to know, so what is reproduction? So reproduction is the process by which living organisms produce new individuals of the same species. A hibiscus plant can't give rise to a rose plant. A cow can't give rise to a sheep. So, again, you have to understand the concept. Reproduction is the process by which living organisms produce new individuals or their offsprings, we call. Okay, but they should be of the same species. They can produce the same species new individuals. So reproduction is necessary for the survival and increase in the population of the species. So again I repeat, reproduction is necessary. It's very important for the survival. Otherwise, if reproduction doesn't happen, so what happens? So the organism next generation will not be seen. So if it doesn't reproduce, so the next generation is not seen. So then the older generation will, when they die, so the next generation will not be there. So reproduction is necessary for the survival and increase in the population of the species. If the next generation, the second generation, third generation, if this keeps on happening because of reproduction, so then only there will be increase in the population of that particular species. If organisms do not reproduce, so we have to think of this also. So if organisms do not reproduce, so what happens? Their population decreases. Their population completely decreases and species will become extinct. So the species will become extinct. Extinct means there will be no more. So to give an example of extinct species, so dinosaurs, so they are extinct. Okay, then what do you mean by endangered species? You would have heard about endangered species, right? So they are in danger. The number is becoming very, very less. So that is called as endangered. So for example, tigers, so leopards, so these are endangered species. They are in danger. There are only few hundreds of these species present. So what did we learn now? What is the definition of reproduction? It's very important. It could be asked for 1 mark. So reproduction is the process by which living organisms produce new individuals of the same species. Reproduction is necessary for the survival and to increase in the population of the species. So this is the second point. So third one, if organisms do not reproduce, their population decreases and species will become extinct. Means no more. You can't see that kind of organisms. It could be in plants, it could be in animals. So only we are telling living organisms. Okay, I hope you understood. So moving on to the next one. Do organisms create carbon copies of themselves? So we are talking into more detailed about this. So you know about DNA, I hope. So DNA is nothing but deoxyribonucleic acid. So these are the genetic materials which are present. Where it is present? In the cell. Where in the cell? In the nucleus. So in the nucleus you have something called as chromosomes, which have the characteristics, the paternal and the maternal. From both the parents, from the mother and from the father, you have all the characteristics. So only you do look similar to your parents. ಹೇಳ್ತಾರಲ್ವಾ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅಪ್ಪನ ಥರ ಆಡ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅಮ್ಮನ ಥರ ಮೂಗಿದೆ, your forehead is like your father, your height is like your mother, your curly hair is because of your father, your skin tone is like your mother. So this is because of the DNA which is present. So the DNA molecules in the chromosomes in the nucleus is responsible for the transfer of characters from the parents to the offsprings. Offsprings, who is this offsprings? Offsprings, the younger generation, the children you can call. So scientifically we call it as, in science, offsprings. So this is a new term, you should get involved into this. Okay, so during reproduction the reproductive cells produce 2 copies of DNA. So during reproduction what happens in the molecular stage? So during reproduction the reproductive cells produce 2 copies of DNA which separate into to cells. So when we move further into hereditary and evolution in those chapters, so we'll have it in detailed over there. The DNA copies will be similar but not identical to each other. So what does this mean? So they are producing two copies actually, but here they are telling that the DNA copies will be similar but not identical. What do you mean by identical? So Surya will be playing the exact role of a father and the son also. So that is identical over there, right? The same person is playing, so that is identical. But over here where the DNA copies itself, but still they are similar but not identical, means there are some changes. So they both are not same, though the origin is same, but still they are not same, they are not identical, they are not photocopies. If a Xerox machine, into a Xerox machine, if you keep a paper, the exact whatever the errors or whatever the print or whatever the alphabets, everything exactly you get. So that is an identical copy, that is an identical copy. So when you have one paper and you rewrite that paper, how much ever you try to do the same, but still you have some errors or mistakes or some changes. So this is similar copy, but the Xerox copy is identical copy of each other. So the new individuals have slight variations. So what do they have? They have slightly changes. Variations is also another word for changes. So there are some changes. In science we call it as variations. So from whom they have the variations? The copies from their parents, from their parents. So the new individuals have slight variations from their parents. So this is the basis of variations and evolution of new species. So this becomes the basis. So there are two copies which are produced, so but these two copies are similar but not identical to each other. So the new individuals have slight variations from their parents. So this is the basis. So this basis of variation and evolution of new species. So you have new species. So in one generation of ant you can see there are no wings, but the next generation will have some wings in them. So the next generation might have some horns in them. So next generation might have two more appendages or legs or something like that, which are added features. So there are some slight variations in them. I hope you understood. Okay, so there are different types of reproduction. So let us see the different types of reproduction for in a general manner. So asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. So what do you mean by asexual reproduction? Asexual reproduction, a single parent is involved. For example, your mother wants to grow a hibiscus plant. So what does she do? She goes, she breaks a branch of an hibiscus plant and she comes and plants it in the pot over there. So after few days you can see the leaf starts to grow and you get it. So what is happening over here? From the parental hibiscus plant, you are generating a new plant, right? So here there are no much changes. Okay, so this is from a single parent. So this is called as what? Asexual reproduction. So coming to the sexual reproduction, example, a male and a female, two parents, or like the male cow and the female cow, they give birth to a calf. Okay, so here in sexual reproduction, two parents are involved. So in asexual reproduction, the second difference is, so no formation or fusion of gametes. So you can see the male gamete is the sperm, the female gamete is the egg or the ova. So there is no fusion over here. Okay, so no formation or fusion of gametes takes place in asexual reproduction. So in sexual reproduction, what is happening? So there is formation of gametes. So the male, it could be any organism. So the males actually, they produce the sperms. So then the female produces the ova. So they both actually fuse together, form a zygote, then an embryo. So then the organism will be developed. So formation and fusion of gametes are seen in sexual reproduction. So in asexual reproduction, it involves the mitotic division. So sexual reproduction involves the meiosis. So this is a little bit higher to you, but you just know what kind of division takes place. There are two types, which is mitotic and meiotic. Okay, meiosis. So in asexual reproduction, individuals are genetically identical. So they are very similar to the parent. They are very similar to their parent, genetically identical. So in sexual reproduction, individuals show variations, that is the offsprings. They are similar, but they are not same as their parents. They have some changes, though they show some characteristics which are similar to their parents, but still they are different from their parents. A slight variation is seen. I explained you just now about the variations, right? So that happens only in sexual reproduction. Okay, so moving on, types of animals. So we have oviparous and viviparous. So this is not there in your textbook, but still I would like to tell you because this is there in your 8th standard textbook. So types of animals. So we have oviparous and viviparous. So what do you mean by oviparous? So animals lay fertilized or unfertilized eggs. So in the picture you can see over here the hen. The hen is an oviparous. So some other examples you can give it as snakes, you can give turtles, they lay eggs actually. So then we have so different kinds of birds also. Okay, so reptiles and birds, these are examples of oviparous. So they lay fertilized or unfertilized eggs. So in oviparous again, eggs have calcareous shell to protect from the harsh environment. So you can see the hen's egg also, it is a little bit hard. It's not very hard, but still we can consider it as hard. So they have the calcium shell. So we call it as calcareous shells. So coming to the viviparous. So viviparous, so the biggest example is the mammals. It could be cow, goat, humans, and all these mammals especially. So they give birth to the young individuals. So they give birth to the young ones. There are no eggs or shells being formed, but they give birth to the babies. So no shells, they are protected inside in the mother's body. So the entire development takes place inside the mother's body. So I hope you understood the concept. So we will continue in the next class. Thank you so much for joining. If you want any part to be explained, please ask me in the comments. I'll do it for you students. Thank you so much.